Hey, yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy, Manny, and I'm coming to you live from the Manny J Media headquarters here in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I have this big, giant smile on because I'm with one of my favorite people in the whole wide world that I've been wanting to do this forever, with a pillar in the community, with an advocate for Hispanic heritage and culture every day of your life. Maritza Cruz, welcome to the Manny J Media show. And I don't know, it's not the Manny J Media show, it's interviews. I don't know. My mind is like, I'm so excited you're here. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much. Buenos dias to everyone who's listening and watching.
Thank you.
And it's a pleasure to be here. It
So
really
it's
is.
a pleasure to have you. Let's first start by introducing who is Maritza Cruz.
Maritza Cruz. Maritza Cruz, I am the daughter of Concepcion Acevedo and Felipe Cruz, my family. I was born in Puerto Rico. Um, when I was 15 days old, we came here to New Jersey because my family was living here already in New Jersey. My mother went back to the island because she couldn't have any more children. She wanted one of the children to be born on the island. I come from a very patriotic, very proud family of who
Yeah,
we are. There's only two of us, and so I had the privilege of being born back in Puerto Rico. I am a Worcesterite. I've been in Worcester. My family has been here since 1968. I consider myself an advocate, an
absolutely.
organizer for social justice, for racial justice, for gender justice. Anything that is not good towards anyone, that it's not fair, I try to find a solution to
Absolutely,
those
you do.
problems.
If we can, I just want to touch on some personal history, and I'm glad that you brought advocacy up because that is how I know you. I don't remember when I first met you because, truthfully, I was
You were a
very
baby.
young. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't even think I can remember that far back because yes, I was a baby. And from what my memory serves me correct, the conversations I've had with my mom. First of all, you've always been a mentor to me. I've always looked up to you. I've always appreciated what you bring to the city, what you bring to the community, what you brought to my life. And I've modeled my life around people just like yourself. My mom was, she went through a lot as a young
Mhm.
person. And she too filled them advocacy shoes.
Mhm.
And it was due to people like you who mentored her or who walked side by side with her into those situations that you're talking about. What I mostly remember you from is advocating for rights in the 90s, advocating for things like housing and food security and things that you need, just basic survival
Mhm. Mhm.
needs
Absolutely.
that were affordable but weren't given the way they should be, or what little bit we had was trying to be taken away,
Mhm.
and you
Mhm.
stopped those things from being taken away, and you left us young people with hope for the future, and I thank you for
Oh
that.
my God,
I
thank
thank you for
you.
being a part of that. You're very welcome, and it's true. I did not struggle to say that at all because it's my experience with you,
Absolutely. I think,
and literally my whole life. Sorry, go
no, I was
ahead.
going to say that, in our communities, and I don't, there's always unfairness and things that are not just. And people will ask and say, well, why are you doing that? You do it because, you're doing the right thing.
Right.
And I remember meeting your mom. Here's a little tidbit of information. I was the first Latina or Latino person to be hired by the Worcester Housing Authority to be a property manager, and then eventually I became director for the entire public housing in the city. And I remember meeting your mom as an activist, tenant representative in Grapevine Valley, and she was a fighter.
Yeah.
She was a warrior,
Yeah.
and she'd be dragging you and your sister
She,
to all the different
truthfully,
meetings and
and
so on.
that just
Yeah,
goes to show the and by the way, my mom's Latina. She's
yes, she
Cuban and
is.
white.
Yes,
And she was a single mom,
yes,
and she
yes.
wasn't gonna leave us at
Yeah.
home.
And when I see that, I come from a divorced family, and when I see women struggling, because my mother was the same way. My mother was one of the people who was involved in bringing bilingual education into the city of Worcester. It was mostly women. There were men involved, of course, but it was mostly women. She was the first president of the PAC,
Yeah.
the Hispanic, Parent Association, and they're the ones. And so when I see women single parents like that, but yet they have the time to go out there and get involved in the community and fight for others. That to me is
Yeah.
something so to my heart. So
Right.
when I saw your mom, I'm like, oh no, you know,
Yeah.
we have to support each other. We have to, in my position and of what I can do to help support that, absolutely will do that.
Right. And I saw it with my own eyes. You guys definitely came together. I would say, maybe everything wasn't perfect, but for the
Absolutely not.
most
Yeah,
part,
yeah,
you came together for a common goal and you achieved it.
absolutely. And you can agree to disagree
Yeah.
respectfully. I think which sometimes now we're lacking sorely, unfortunately.
This world of respect
Yeah,
nowadays,
yeah.
it's like, I
It's a
don't
give
know.
and take.
It's yeah, and it's a lot more take.
Absolutely, it
but
really is.
but it should be a balanced give and take
Yes,
and
yes.
respectfully. So yeah, my next question was actually, what is your contribution to Hispanic heritage in the community, which you already touched on. I don't think we have enough time on the show for you to really list everything. But from what I've seen, every event that has any kind of Hispanic Latino culture in, you are there. You are representing. You are giving us history, real history that we may not have learned in the history books, but our actual history. Um, the Puerto Rican flag ceremony, you were always there representing, singing for us even.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I love it. The Puerto Rican national anthem.
Absolutely.
It's such a part of our identity.
Yes, it is.
And I think identity within Puerto Ricans is it's such a touchy subject because our identity is so misconstrued amongst American culture, right?
Yes, it
We
is.
know who we are, but America wants us to be what they want us to be, and we don't necessarily fit in that because you can't be. Some people can't be who you want them to be. They're who they are.
Exactly.
And Puerto Ricans, we are strong,
Yes, we are.
and our
Yes, we
identity
are.
is strong. And as a matter of fact, I was with the Pittsburgh mayor. Shout out to Sam. Last name John Sam Sam, Mayor of Pittsburgh.
Quality.
Squalia, thank you. I knew it was the S, and I knew I was gonna chop it up. But she had a question about how Puerto Ricans that why they always got their flag. I know you know the
Yes,
answer to this.
absolutely.
You want to enlighten us why we always rock our flags?
Yes, one of the reasons why Puerto Ricans were so proud to wave our flag is because in Puerto Rico there was a law that was imposed by the federal government, United States government. For many of you who may not know, Puerto Rico is a commonwealth of the United States. I call it a colony. We
Yeah,
are the oldest colony in the entire Western Hemisphere
it's absolutely a colony.
on this planet and have been so to this day. So the gag law was imposed in order for Puerto Ricanos, not to show their pride because it was considered insurrection if we were to wave our flag. They
So
wanted
it
to
was in
squash the independent party because there's always been a party that has wanted independence for the Puerto Rican people.
so it was an effort to assimilate.
No, it was an effort to oppress,
Okay,
oppression.
could we break that down a little bit? Because when I say assimilate, I'm thinking our government wants the Puerto Ricans to step in line, become Americans, and that's it.
They
Wave
don't.
the American flag.
Well,
But you say oppress. Why?
oppression because when your identity and your culture are oppressed, for you to be erased as a people, and that eliminating of the erasure of the Puerto Rican flag, that's oppression. We are a colony of the United States.
Yes.
Okay, you have people that want independence. You want people that want it to stay as it is, even though that's been taken off the table. And you have people that want it to become statehood. If we become a state, it becomes like Hawaii, where the Hawaiian people have lost everything. They're now trying to get, that was unfortunately, it was taken, it was stolen.
With
And
empty promises.
absolutely.
Because you should become a state. The United States is the biggest,
Absolutely.
best, baddest country in the
And
world.
that- and-
Which we're not bad. I'm just saying, like, I'm happy to live here. But
Absolutely.
if I was a small country, or I know Puerto Rico's not a country, but if I was a small
Oh
island like
no,
Puerto
no,
Rico,
we are a country.
oh, thank you. Because I always say it, and
We are a country, and we have our own
Freudian slip.
culture,
All right,
and we
cool,
have our
cool.
own history. And so, because of the gag or la mordida, if you were caught waving a flag in the island, you would go to jail.
Yeah.
You would be imprisoned.
Isn't that
And a lot of
wild?
people would be imprisoned. Eventually, it was lifted. So, for Puerto Ricans, when the law was lifted,
Meanwhile, they could raise a Confederate flag around here. Isn't
absolutely.
that crazy?
Yeah, yeah. And so we would go like, this is one of the reasons why when the first Puerto Rican Day parade in 1959 was in New York City, we went buck wild,
Yeah.
and we still do.
Yeah.
So we wave our flags because it's a sign of pride, but it's also a sign of rebellion. We're still here.
Speaking of rebellion, you see my keychain? My
Yes, I
lanyard?
do.
Isn't that beautiful? So a
I
lot of
do.
people don't understand
Yes.
what this means. They think it's just the black version of the Puerto Rican flag, but
Mhm.
there's symbolism and a lot of power and actually heritage behind this. Can you touch
Absolutely.
on what this means
Yes.
and where this came into play?
Well, the black and white flag it's for mourning. It's a symbol of disagreement. Um, again, that we are an oppressed nation, an oppressed country. Um, there are many Puerto Ricans that want the freedom, and some that want statehood.
Mm.
But that flag, it's a flag of mourning. It's a flag of rebellion. That we are part of a movement that was not extinguished.
Mm.
Because we're going back to when we were part of Spain, and then eventually we were given our freedom. Spain did give it to us, but then the United States invaded under the Spanish American
United States
War.
like not so
Absolutely,
fast.
spoils of war.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm a very proud Puerto Rican, but this is also my country.
100%. Yeah. I
This
love
is
living
my
here.
country, and I refuse to have people tell me it's not.
Yeah.
When we talk about culture, um, we as Latinos, we as Puerto Ricans, Boricuas, and that's the term that I use as a Boricua. Boricua, Borinquen is the indigenous name of the island of Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
and that's why many Puerto Ricans will call ourselves Boricua. We still use that term, that as a nod to who we are. And because of the mixture of races, we're not a race. We are multiracial people, probably one of the most diverse multiracial Latinos probably in the entire world, because of the mixtures of who we are.
And the Trans-American slave trade.
Absolutely, yeah.
And colonism. So I'm gonna. Another question that I had.
We can kind of stray to a lot of different ways.
Yeah, no, seriously. I have difficulty personally accepting my colonialism heritage because we all have it. If you're Puerto Rican, you have, for the most part, chances are, especially you have lighter skin, you have lineage that goes back to Spain.
Yeah.
Right? More than likely.
We all do.
Because of the things that Spain and in turn Columbus did to the Americas when they were, well, I mean, the whole world, but in this conversation, the Caribbean and Mexico and North and South America, I have a problem with that. I don't like saying, like Spain's my heritage. I don't like it. It bothers me. It makes me kind of like shy away from that and just lean it more into and embrace my African and Taino heritage. Can you help me heal from that?
Absolutely. Well, you wouldn't be who you are if you didn't have your European Spanish heritage bloodline.
Yeah.
But
how do you look from it without being disgusted by them and all the atrocities they caused?
Oh, I understand what you're saying. I mean, my heritage. I mean, I'm literally. I have a very high percentage of indigenous um, ancestry.
Yeah.
I'm at like 35%, and on top of that, I am culturally also the way people believe that native people of Puerto Rico, which are Tainos, and that's another debate, that we're extinct. No, we're not.
Right.
Because a lot of that culture is still something that my family in particular, where we're from in San Sebastian, practice.
Yeah.
Culture is an everyday way of life. It's the traditions, It's the rituals, it's your beliefs, it's the symbols that we use to navigate everyday life.
Right.
So in my life, I have that heritage, but I also have the heritage of what is, European. I also, I have, the heritage, the roots of Puerto Rico, are indigenous. And then, of course, we were had the Christopher Columbus came in, and for a point, a point here, um, you can thank the Tainos of the Caribbean because we were the first point of contact and the first people to be genocide,
Yeah.
indigenous people in this part of the world. First they landed in at the what is called Tisqueya, Dominican Republic, and then landed in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Eventually, they made their way, to Cuba and of course to South America. Christopher Columbus never set foot in North America, so I don't understand why we have statues of him here. But anyways, that's another,
I digress. That's a whole
exactly,
another. I mean, it's not.
exactly.
We're gonna get more into that honestly
And,
because
yeah.
Hispanic heritage, a big part of that does include Columbus and that part of colonialism and
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah. And so, I mean, and again, that the genocide started, so, we were that first since 1492.
Right.
It didn't happen here in North America
Why do you think it's
until
so
much
easy
later.
for us to kind of brush that under the rug? Because I've noticed this in my lifetime. The Columbus thing kind of gets brushed under the rug, but when it comes to the Jewish and the Hitler situation, I mean,
Well, it's a matter of bringing it to light. It's a matter of history.
yeah,
History is acknowledged by those who conquer, by those who write it down. So it's going to be up to us to change that. And it is slowly changing because you see it happening where now we have Indigenous Peoples Day instead of
which
Columbus
I
Day.
love, by the way.
Exactly.
I never call it
Yeah,
Columbus Day anymore. It's always
yeah.
going to be Indigenous people.
Indigenous Peoples Day. And here, like for example, in Newton, it was Indigenous Peoples Day, but it was Tainos who actually spearheaded that.
Maybe it should
Um,
be Taino History Day. I don't know. I'm
yeah.
not trying to. I'm not trying to go too far into it, but I
No.
do think
Yeah.
like Indigenous people should get a month just like
Yeah.
every other
Yeah. I agree.
culture.
And a lot of us, we identify very strongly with that,
Yeah.
and kind of getting back to your question about, how do you hear from the European heritage
Yes,
bloodline that
please.
we have? Um, we wouldn't, again, conquering and invading other worlds and other nations has always been the history of mankind,
Yeah. Right. Right.
and that is part of our history also. And so you have to come to terms with it because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those ancestors that did come from Spain. That came, my ancestry, as a Puerto Rican, is very, mixed, which is
Yeah.
what the United States has become now.
Literally.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm like, I'm Spaniard. I am a Native American. I am Indigenous Taino. Not only bloodline, but I keep saying this culturally, which is part of being Boricua. I am also Scottish. I have some Jewish in me.
Yeah.
I have some Northern African. But this is who we are. I look at the same thing as as your Cuban heritage. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? That lineage and Puerto Rican. That's who we are. So you embrace all of that
Yeah, and
because
Cubans and Puerto Ricans have pretty much the same dynamic of
very,
makeup.
very, very. We do. The
Uh,
only difference in Cuba, because Cuba being much larger, it had a larger percentage of enslaved Africans that were brought over. So they have
wow.
a larger African descent population than Puerto Rico.
Which makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense
Puerto
when you
Rico is
look at
more mixed,
yeah, and Cuba's a lot more racially
stratified.
yeah.
It really is.
You have all the white Cubans at the
Exactly.
top, and all the dark
Yeah.
Cubans are
Even with communism,
still
it was supposed to
technically they're
take
still
care of
kind of
that.
slaves.
Yeah,
Let's be
yeah,
real.
enslavement, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, not enslaved. Thank
yeah,
you, enslaved
yeah.
peoples, because nobody is a slave
Well, those
by.
I think anywhere when you go in any Latino
Excuse me.
country, the people who you're going to see in power are always the white-skinned Latinos,
Yeah. Wow.
not the Indians, not the well. That's been changing also slowly, and not of course, African. Afro Latinos.
Oh my goodness. There's so much more for us to learn, and we're gonna learn so much
We're
more. I
very
have so many.
complicated.
Yeah, it is. Like not enough for
Yeah,
40
we're very
minutes, but
complicated.
that's all we got here today. We got 40 minutes, and to get to the other side, we have to thank our amazing sponsors. So we just want to give them a little bit of time. John, go ahead and take it away.
Manny J Media is brought to you by
You know, Thanos had to conquer at one point, I'm sure. You know what I mean? So not a bad good break
Everybody.
point. And welcome back, everybody, to Manny J Media's interviews with the one and only Miss Maritza Cruz. It's so good to have you here today. I want to remind everybody who you are and what you do in the community because it's so important to me. Right now, currently, you have an amazing project out of the Worcester History Museum.
Mm-hmm.
And before I mess anything up, because I want to give it so much respect, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do there.
Okay, I'm one of the founding members of the Worcester Latino History Project, which was founded about 10 years, 11 years ago at this point. And we founded the project because we used to have like these kind of dinners, Latino dinners, and group of us of people, and we'd go from house to house, and we'd have like wines from Spanish countries, in order an ode to, our heritage. And we would have these dinners in order to kind of discuss and keep a pulse about what was happening within our own Latino communities.
Okay.
And I like to say communities because we're so diverse.
Right.
Latinos, we're
It's
so
not
diverse.
just one community, it's a
Absolutely.
plethora of communities.
Exactly. And we're not this monolithic group that we're all exactly the same. We
Right.
have a similar history, but we have our own different histories. And so it came up, and we started to talk about, how do we record our history?
Mm.
And I remember I pulled out. I had this sign that I took. I don't know if I mean, you're probably too young to remember this, but when the TNG used to have those tin metal cabinets out on the side.
Yep. No, I'm not too.
Okay.
I'm not too young
Yes,
for that.
okay.
I absolutely remember those. Yep.
Yeah, so we would, and they would have newspapers. So I remember they did a series back in the early '80s on Puerto Ricans in Worcester, and so they had this cardboard sign there, and I saw this, and I got so excited because it was so few times that I would see myself,
Right.
us, in the media or in the public or being highlighted, unless it was negative,
Right.
of course.
Right.
And I saw this, so I took the sign, and I remember coming out with the sign and saying what I have, and I've been collecting and anything that has to do with Latino history in the city for years, for decades, and in particular about Puerto Ricans. And I have an extensive library at my house on Puerto Ricans here in the United States, because this is what we are. We're here in the United States.
Yeah.
I don't use the term mainland because no, it's not the mainland. It's the United States.
Right.
But anyway, so it came out of there, and the founding members of this, it's myself, Maritza Cruz, Leo Negron Cruz, George Fortes, and Ida Ramirez. And so we went to the Worcester Historical Museum. We said, well, let's record this, because one of the things that people need to understand, again, history goes according to those who write it, and unfortunately, in our communities, people are always trying to define who we are based on very negative stereotypes.
Right.
That they see of what, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, or what we're supposed to be. And so we are defining who we are. We are going to tell our stories.
Yeah.
And this is why the Latino History Project was founded.
And one thing about American history that I've noticed, because I grew up here and I learned in Worcester public schools, is one, there's barely any mention of like Latino history.
There's none.
The only history that we have is colonialism.
Exactly.
In our books.
Exactly.
And then on top of it all, when you do read anything about our history, um, it's not very positive.
It's distorted.
Yeah,
It's very
and it
distorted.
makes Latinos who aren't in the decision making or the powerful groups, um, it makes them look inferior. It
Yeah,
makes them look us. Sorry, it makes
exactly.
us look
Yeah,
like at one time we were considered savages.
exactly. It's perpetuating those very negative stereotypes of
Yeah,
who we are, and then that becomes truth. And so, by recording our own history, by interviewing our people, people need to understand. And one thing I have to say is this: when we went to the Worcester Historical Museum, they welcomed us with open
I was gonna
arms.
say shout out to the Worcester
They
Historical
really
Museum
do.
because
And
the one thing
yes,
that we do need as well is credibility,
yeah,
and Worcester
absolutely.
Historical Museum
It
provides
does.
that.
And Bill Wallace, who's the executive director, he's been part of our committee since day one.
Wow.
He is, he says, this is your museum. This is Worcester's museum. And I now sit as a trustee on the Worcester Historical Museum.
Congratulations, that's
Thank you.
awesome.
Yeah, it's
And it feels so good to have a Puerto Rican in such a great
absolutely,
position there.
absolutely. There's two of us Latinos there. It's myself and then Edgar Luna,
Yeah.
who's the other Latino. But
And shout out to
Edgar,
Edgar Luna.
yeah.
That's one of John's best friends, by the way.
Ah,
Uncle
Yeah.
Edgar.
yeah,
Uncle
yeah.
Edgar, he said.
Uncle
Yeah,
Edgar.
Edgar's a good guy.
He's a
He
good guy.
handles all.
He's a dear friend
If
of
we could
mine.
just shout him out real quick, handles all the Hollywood that
Yes,
be
he
going around
does.
here. So
Yes,
if
he
you
does.
like seeing Black Panther out here, shout out to Edgar Luna.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's a
Which
dear friend.
Black Panther too. We can go back to what you were saying in the man. I'm so sorry, but the fact that we were represented in that movie too,
That's right.
I loved it.
Absolutely,
Anyway.
I agree. And you know
Yeah.
what people don't realize, for example, when we talk about Star Wars, Groot is Taino.
No, stop it.
Yes.
I am Groot. Is
Yeah.
stop it.
He's Taino.
I had no
He's
idea.
Boricua.
Okay.
Which a lot of people don't know.
I did not know.
Absolutely,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Fun fact of
Yeah.
the day for Hispanic
There we
Heritage
go.
Month. Yeah.
Absolutely. There we go.
Groot is Latino.
Yeah,
I
Groot
love
is
it.
Latino.
Now I need to go get me a little
Boricua,
Groot
just to
statue.
be like really
He's
precise.
Boricua.
Boricua.
That's pretty cool. Did you know that, John? Groot.
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 No,
No.
Groot.
The character Groot
The character
from
Groot.
Marvel
Yeah.
is Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Or Boricua.
Boricua. Taino.
It's pretty cool. Now we
It
got to
is.
get a Boricua.
Fun fact.
I mean, a Groot statue here. Before we move on, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go
Yeah,
back
but
to
I
your
just
point.
wanted to say, that shout out to the Worcester Historical Museum, and
Yes.
one of the things is that by sharing our history for the Worcester Latino History Project, um, it becomes Worcester culture.
Yeah.
Our Latino culture is infused in the Worcester culture and the United States culture and the society. And so after 10 years, we have an exhibit that was opened back in June,
Mhm.
and it's going to be running there until October 16th, when we close the exhibit, which will be the 16th. And it's called Somos Worcester.
Yes. Yes.
We are Worcester because you are Worcester. I am Worcester. John is Worcester.
Right.
Everybody's Worcester. I don't care what group you are from.
Right.
We are Worcester, but Somos Worcester. We're here and we've been here since the 1800s.
Right.
We have contributed to what is Worcester, to its successes. We have and continue to do so.
And fought for our freedoms.
And fought for absolutely. People don't realize, for example, that here we have a statue here talking about statue of the Borinqueniers, which is the Korean War Memorial. Every year it's celebrated. The 65th Infantry, which is part of Borinqueniers, which were given the highest honor that the United States government can give to the military for the courageous soldiers that have fought in the Korean War. But I want to say that Puerto Ricans have fought in every single war of the United States, including the Revolutionary War of this country.
That's crazy.
That's
you know
how
why I
much-
think that's
yeah.
crazy? Because why would I?
Yeah. So we
Seriously.
have.
I'm going to tell you why, on a personal note. You come here and you mess with me and mine, and I am going to fight. But, when you think about all the oppression that Puerto Ricans have suffered,
Mhm.
and I mean some real atrocities
Absolutely, yes.
from the jump, why would you fight for a country that has treated you like that?
Because many of us consider ourselves to be also part of this country.
It was always ours
Yeah.
to begin with.
Yeah, and then the thing is too, that we became citizens in 1917. That was imposed on us, but it was also imposed on us so that they could have more soldiers coming from Puerto Rico.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have spilled more blood and more loss of blood than any other little country in this
And
planet.
meanwhile, we have like the least rights,
Yeah,
as far as
we're still fighting
being a
though.
colony here in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
United States,
yeah,
but like we can't vote
yeah.
for anything.
No,
We don't have
no.
much
But
say.
those of us in the diaspora, we can.
Yeah.
And those of us
So
in
it's
the
up to us, right?
diaspora we will continue because we not only we fight for our rights here also.
Yes.
One thing that people need to understand, there's 63 million Latinos in this country.
Wow.
That's going to be probably by 2030 or whatever. We're talking probably 65, 66 million.
And what are we at, like
Um,
we're like 27% of the population or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the thing is, the East Coast is mostly, the largest group is Puerto Ricans, followed by Dominicans, Cubans. Worcester is the same way, Massachusetts actually. And of course, the West Coast is Mexican, Chicano, which is also the West Coast and the Western kind of states. But I mean, people need to think that,
Right.
the demographics in this country are changing. And when people come to us and say English only, the United States doesn't have an official language.
Right.
This
You know
country
what
has
blows my
always
mind
been
about that
bilingual.
is when all these English people came in, excuse me, English speaking people came into the country from jump, they didn't
No,
assimilate to the languages that were already spoken here.
no.
So to expect that from anybody else blows
Yeah.
my mind.
But that's why we have to educate and inform, and that's why we
Meanwhile,
have to tell our stories.
and meanwhile, our people are the ones who are bilingual.
Absolutely.
More,
Or
more,
or
more of them.
bilingual and trilingual and
Yeah.
so on. Because
Exactly.
that's it makes your brain agile.
Yeah.
And we are a bilingual country, whether people want to accept it or not. This is a bilingual country.
And I say our people, and I mean our people. I don't mean me, because I'm one of those unfortunate souls who okay. It's weird. I can read Spanish. Music in Spanish becomes very fluent and easy to me. If you spoke to me, I can understand everything you say. For some reason, I can't output it. I can't
Practice.
speak in Spanish.
Práctica.
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 You see, I got the
Practice.
dialect down.
There you go.
Práctica. Okay. Yeah. So, and that's another part of our heritage is, I don't know if self hatred's the right word or what it is, but a lot of people come from Hispanic countries and they lose a lot of their culture and heritage trying to survive, really assimilate. Yeah. So like, there's a lot of people who come, like my dad, for example. He had an issue with his accent and the fact that he had limited English, and that affected us and how we were raised. As far as me and my sister, and being in an English only household where we didn't have to worry about any of the prejudices, I guess, that are out there. Can you speak a little bit to that and how we contribute to the country, but we're also, kind of standoffish a little bit. Yeah, speak English.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is people need to real. Racism is alive and well.
Yeah.
Racism is not just only about white and black. It's about anyone who's different. And racism in this country towards Latinos is so alive.
Yeah.
So well. And
amongst ourselves even.
Absolutely.
Why?
It's systemic racism that
like
it's
the
in
Puerto
the
Rican
systems.
Dominican War.
Well,
What is that?
Where I don't what I will say is this. I think each country, depending on where you come from, when you arrive here to the United States as newly arrived immigrants, you grapple with that. And I think, anyone who's coming in from elsewhere, but if you happen to belong to an ethnic group, in particular to Latinos, because we are an ethnic group, we are not a race, we are multiracial people.
Right.
And there is such discrimination and hatred by many people. And of course, and we saw it in number 45, close the border and, this whole thing. And even, when he went to Puerto Rico and threw paper towels at us.
Saw that.
Exactly.
That was
It
wild.
shows you how diminishing that our lives really
And even
don't
now,
matter.
did you see
Yes.
his introduction of Nikki Jam? She's a
Yeah,
beautiful woman.
I know. But you know what? He's he's a sellout, Nicky Jam.
I mean,
He's a sellout.
slapper.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
sellout.
that's wild.
But I mean, so you have internalized racism within each groups.
Yeah.
And and it's alive and well. But one thing I will tell you is this: I find that with I'm speaking for Puerto Ricans now. I'm not speaking for any other Latino group. I found that Puerto Ricans, we hold on to our heritage. We hold on to our culture. We hold on to our customs. We hold on and we impose that. That's
Mm.
the waving of the flag language. By the time my sister and I went to kindergarten, we were fluent in both English and Spanish, and my
Wow.
parents spoke English and Spanish.
That's
My
wild.
children who are here, born and raised here, are fluent in English and Spanish. My daughter at this point speaks 5 languages because of that. The last one
That's
she learned is
amazing.
Arabic because of So it's up to us. But I will can speak on the behalf of Puerto Ricans that many of us we hang on to our culture. You go to
Yep.
a Puerto Rican house, you're gonna see the flag, you're
Everywhere.
gonna see el coquillo.
Yep.
And I think it's a little bit different from when you see other folks, but it may be because of the long relationship that we've had being part of the United States. We refuse to assimilate.
Yeah.
So we don't have, I would say, that self hatred. And then, yes, there is division among Latinos, absolutely. I use the term Latino because each country, when you go into Latino countries, they identify, oh, I'm Nicaraguense, I'm Salvadoreño, I'm Cubano, I'm, Mexicano. But when you come here to the United States, you're put into the Latino.
Yeah.
And so I see it as this big Latino family that I also belong to, but I'm Puerto Rican. And so we're going to have our fights and we're going to have our differences and we're going to have our divisions, absolutely, like any other group. And you see it, like even years ago when, you had the Italians and you had the Irish and, there were
That's
fights,
true.
what?
That's
I mean,
true.
you have these
Italian,
fights that
Irish, the same.
exist.
Yeah.
So we have those. But I think, what's happening is that people are starting to realize that we have to work together if we're going to get something done. So let me tell you something: 63 million people—that's power.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of bringing that power
Bringing it all
together.
together.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, they really trying their darndest to keep us divided. I've noticed even with major politics right now,
Oh,
with the two candidates
absolutely.
for
Oh,
president,
yes.
and I've my own family,
Mm-hmm.
there's division. It's like I don't agree with you, I don't agree with you, and at the end of the day, them two don't care about either one of us.
Exactly. Yep. No,
So,
you're absolutely right. And I think
so,
people, I mean, it's
so we still got to come together.
we do. Election year comes around, and you see the people going into, reaching out to here, to you, whatever, who can support me. Whatever. It's like, okay, so what are you going to do for our communities? We need to ask that, and not say, "Oh, I'm
And
going
right
to be
now,
given a position. Here I go. I'm going to be important."
right now, all I hear about what they're gonna do to our communities is lock us out.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
absolutely.
hearing. Why do you think it's such an important thing that America? I don't know. Like they keep talking about the border, but for me, like they want to make it as like, oh, we're protecting our assets, we're protecting our resources. There's only so much to go around, blah blah blah. But from my memory, first of all these Latinos that you were trying to keep out with the wall on the southern border were here before we were, right? We're here before our
Native
government
people,
was,
absolutely.
right? How and we didn't have anybody pushing us, like
California,
blocking us out.
Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, they were all part of Mexico.
Don't you think it's like racially motivated more than anything, or do you think it's like I just feel like
It's racially motivated
because they're talking
It
about
is.
I know what it's like to go through the
I am-
immigration system. If we just made it, what's the word, more efficient, a lot of
It's-
these problems will be solved. But instead, they want to build a wall.
Well, it depends on it's who you're talking to. The immigration system has been broken for the longest time.
Do you think that was done by design?
I think it's become overwhelmed and it's broken and it hasn't been fixed.
Okay.
And so now we have so many people, not only from the southern border, because a lot of people don't realize this, that people that are coming from the southern border are also people coming in from different parts of the world.
Right.
You have Haitianos, you have people who are leaving, if they Eastern Europe, you have people who are leaving war torn countries,
Right. The Middle East.
the Middle East,
Yeah.
exactly. They're coming through the southern border. So it's not just indigenous peoples or Mexicans or Latino Americanos that are coming in.
But when they talk about it on TV, all you hear about
absolutely.
is, oh, these Venezuelans bringing fentanyl over the border. Like, that's what you hear.
Yeah, well, that's number 45, and that's the and I'm going to say real bluntly, that's your right wing Republican Party putting fear mongering. I don't support the fact that you can just rush the border, because you have people that have been waiting for
Right.
a long time to come into this country, and no one is illegal, but there's a process to follow.
Right.
So how do we fix that? How do we fix that immigration system? You have to. Um, but to put it all on Latinos and say the hordes. That's what they're calling us, like where the
like we're a
hordes
group of zombies.
Exactly,
Horde
coming
of
in to
zombies.
destroy this country.
Yeah.
And that's a very
no.
but it's fear mongering.
Wait, that was the mummy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but that's what they've been doing for the longest time, and that brings us back to the stereotypes that were given to those of us who were here earlier, to Latinos as Puerto Ricans or Chicanos on the West Coast. Puerto Rican, when they would talk about it, oh, a Puerto Rican man arrested, for whatever reason,
Right.
or he's got a knife, or
it's usually gangs of drugs.
Exactly, exactly. So again, we have to change that narrative.
Right.
We have to.
So we do have to wrap up. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, and it's always a blast. That's when you know time's going by quick. We're having fun. But there are a couple points that I want to get to before we go. Hispanic heritage represented in the city of Worcester. I don't see it much. I remember like Roberto Clemente Field. That's what it was when I was growing up in Great Brook Valley. Now I think it's Great Brook Valley Park or Field or whatever it is. I don't even know why the name changed, but it did. It's a whatever.
If you're not vigilant, things will get erased.
Beyond that, and the Korean War Memorial, I mean, I don't see statues. I don't see street names. Is there anything that you know of that you can enlighten me on?
Well, I think, again, it comes back to the point that if we want to define who we are and tell our stories, and because we are part of the history of Worcester, we have to do that ourselves. I know that recently that there was a way, I'm not sure where it's located, but Luis Perez, Judge Luis Perez, had a street named after him, because he was the first Latino, the first.
You would
Puerto
think
Rican
we would have
judge.
like one of the big streets, you know what I mean? Like you got Major Taylor Boulevard, which I respect, but that's like a big, right in the center of Worcester type street. Judge Luis Perez should have one of those too.
We have to push.
Yeah.
We have to, and there's a lot of different little things, advocacy and organizations are well alive. I'm an organizer. That's what I am. I'm an organizer at heart. And I like to call myself a social justice entrepreneur, being part of a founding member of many groups that advocate and are proactive, pushing forward, our Latino communities. And that's what we have to do. Roberto Clemente Field, yes, we have that. And for those of you who don't know, Roberto Clemente, number 21, Puerto Rican hero.
Yeah.
That
the
was
first Latino, I believe, in baseball. Like first Latino overall.
With the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah.
And he was, an Afro Latino, but he was a Boricua, and he was identified. So the park was named after him. That got erased. So it's really up to us, to you, I could say the younger generation, to remain vigilant, and and push for these things. We have public murals, like
your mother,
absolutely,
by the way,
yes,
in Benefit in Maine.
Benefit in Maine.
So check that mural out.
Public mural.
What's up? Fact check. Go ahead.
This is the first Hispanic ever Puerto Rican guy named Luis Miguel Castro.
Okay, so the first, I want to repeat this for our audience. The first Hispanic, first Latino in baseball ever was Luis Miguel Castro.
Mm-hmm.
Colombian,
half Colombian, half Puerto Rican.
He played in 1876.
Wow, he played in 1876, so that was a long time before
I knew
Roberto
that.
That's
Clemente.
amazing.
No,
Huh?
I love it. I love having my fact checker on set. But Roberto Clemente, in my knowledge and
In
history at
Worcester.
least,
He's the first Latino in the Hall.
first Hall of
Ah,
Famer. Thank you. All right, so that clears that up a little bit. All right, excellent.
see, we learn history.
Every day,
Absolutely.
and every day is a learning opportunity. And
Absolutely.
even when you think you know it all, like I do, no, I'm just kidding. You can, be open, and you
Absolutely.
never know what else you can learn. It's not about our egos, right? It's
No.
about facts and history.
It's about facts and history, and I think I always it's like history is living.
Yeah.
It's perpetually happening every single day.
Right now, we're making history.
Absolutely,
We're recording
we are.
Latino
Yes,
culture
we
right now.
absolutely, and I think one of the things it's always constantly putting out there and educating people.
Yes.
I'm an educator in the sense of social justice, racial justice. So I take it upon myself to inform, just like John did right now when he says, "No, this is what it is." I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, it means the world. It does.
Because you're informing folks. I've had people say, "I never knew that." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Well, now you do."
Right.
So this is why, you know, culture is so important because it's what we do every day to navigate life. And as a Boricua, as a Puerto Riqueña, as una Americana, I navigate culturally like that with my heritage and what is Worcester and what is the United States and what is the world. And so I bring forth my culture and it becomes part of where I live at and who we are. So Latinos, we are Worcester. We are Somos Worcester. And I ask you, the audience to, go visit the exhibit, please,
Absolutely.
at the Worcester Historical Museum. It's only there till October 16th.
100%. I implore you guys all to come down there. I think, John, me and you should try to make a visit over there for people who may not be able to physically make it.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do a live stream of myself walking through and checking out
Absolutely. And if
the
you need
exhibit.
a tour guide,
Stop
give you
it.
some history.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. And speaking of good times, the Latino History Project Facebook page actually commented on our post earlier, congratulating you, but also wanted you to bring up an event that's coming up on October 3rd. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The event is actually being sponsored by Adelante Worcester, which is another organization, Latino organization in the city, which helps promote really kind of networking.
Yes.
What they do is I happen to be one of the founding members of that also. But they're having an event on the Thursday, October 3rd, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Worcester Historical Museum for Hispanic Heritage Month. And they will be talking about with Leo Negron Cruz, who is
The
also
one and only Leo Negron.
He's founding
amazing.
member.
And by the way, Leo Negron, I just want to say this part because we really got to go. Had such an amazing impact talking about culture and heritage. And it's still happening today where we're impacting every day. But his impact on our community during the AIDS epidemic in the 90s,
absolutely,
we cannot go a day without crediting that man. And we're not, he doesn't need the credit, but I like to honor him for what he did for our community during a very, very scary time in human history.
Absolutely. And we have another Latina, another Boricua, Puerto Rican was Grace Hines.
Yes.
Who was very involved also with the AIDS Project, which prior to AIDS Project Worcester, eventually that came out of the advocacy and activism that both Grace Hines and also Leo Negron Cruz did and created that. Again, contributions from Latinos in Worcester. So this event will be talking about cultural also. And identity. And this is going to be on again Thursday, October 3rd by Adelante Worcester at the Worcester Historical Museum.
And I'm saying they're going to have food, which you don't want to go to a Latino party and pass up the food. I'm telling you right now. That alone is going to be good.
We won't have
music,
a party if there's no food.
That's right. And this is a free event.
Yes, it is.
And there is going to be a performance by Jose Castillo. If you don't know, bro,
it's fabulous.
I don't. His hands are blessed with that guitar. Are you going to sing with him? Are you gonna sing with him? Because he usually does the pride raising ceremony as well.
Yeah,
I mean, not the. I don't know why I said pride. I meant to say the flag.
That's okay. Yeah. This year we didn't do. Casa Borinquen is I'm the founder and president of Casa Borinquen of Worcester, Mass. We did not do the flag raising Puerto Rican flag. Unfortunately, I've been out of commission first, and it didn't happen.
I'm sorry.
But we'll do it next year. There's a lot of stuff that'll be coming. So.
And you'll be back and healthy and
Absolutely. And I'm still like
Standing
like
strong.
el
You're
hermano
standing strong
número.
anyway. You're here, but
Absolutely.
you'll be able to raise the flag next year. Is what we're saying.
Absolutely. Yes,
All
we
right.
will. And you'll be
Excellent.
there also.
I will be there. I think I've been at
You
every
have.
one.
You have.
Back to
Thank
my
you.
beginning days at Unity Radio, I have pictures of me and you. I was looking.
Absolutely.
When I typed in Maritza Cruz on Facebook. By the way, go do this. Type in Maritza Cruz on Facebook and just see how many pictures you see of me and
Oh,
her
jeez.
together. All right. With all that being said, I want to thank you so
Oh,
much for
thank
being
you.
here with me. I
Thank
love
you.
you. I appreciate you, and I can't
you.
wait to do this with you again. I've looked up to you my whole life. You've been a shining beacon of advocacy, and it's why I'm here in this chair and what I'm doing today. So, with all my heart, I appreciate you,
Ditto.
and I
And
look
you
forward to
inspire
working
me,
with you.
the next
Thank you.
generation of leaders that are going to continue carrying that torch. So that's an inspiration, and thank you for that.
I will take that job happily and with honor. And with that being said, it's your boy Manny,
Maritza Cruz.
and this has been Interviews on Manny J Media Community Delivered. We will see you real soon. Peace.
Era.